Good afternoon, Dobry dzień, and a very, very warm welcome to each and every one of you to Georgetown and to this special program in honor of the First Lady of Ukraine, Olena Zelenska. She has become the visible face of a society shattered by war, doing all that she can to help the Ukrainian people stand their ground against Russia's unprovoked aggression, which continues to rain death and destruction on civilians. There's the kidnapping of Ukrainian children from their families, and a determination to stamp out Ukraine's independence, freedom, and identity. We also come together today to renew our individual and collective commitment to support Ukraine. As President Zelensky said, human morality must win this war. Everyone in the world who values freedom, who values human life, who believes that people must win. Our success depends not only on us Ukrainians, he said, but on the people to the extent they exist through the entire moral space of this world. We want to preserve that moral space because much is at stake. Much is at stake for democracy, for human rights, and for the values we all cherish. A very special welcome to all the members of the diplomatic corps who are here, to the U.S. government officials, to Dean Hellman, the Dean of our School of Foreign Service, to the representatives of the Ukrainian American community, and to the members of the Ukrainian delegation. And we are honored to have Metropolitan Archbishop Gudziak of the Ukrainian Catholic Archeparchy of Philadelphia with us. Welcome, Metropolitan Gudziak. We especially want to salute our students from Ukraine. They are here from Kharkiv to Kiev, from Chernovitsa to Rivne. They are here from throughout Ukraine, and I ask all of them to please stand. It is now my great personal pleasure to introduce President Jack DeGioia, who has led this university with distinction for more than 2 decades. He is deeply committed to public service, as is exemplified in Georgetown's credo, women and men for others. He has been unstinting in his support for Ukraine. He has been ensuring scholarships for students from Ukraine, and encouraging discussions to keep a public focus on what is happening in Ukraine. So please welcome President DeGioia.
Thank you, Ambassador Verveer, for bringing us together this afternoon and for guiding the Georgetown Institute for Women, Peace, and Security and its work to promote women as catalysts for peace building. Good afternoon. It's my privilege to be with all of you as we welcome the First Lady of Ukraine, Olena Zelenska, for this special conversation. To the Ukrainian delegation, to our Ukrainian students, our distinguished guests, and the members of our Georgetown community joining us this afternoon, thank you for your presence. Over these past 19 months, since the unprovoked full-scale Russian invasion began, the impacts of this war have been immense. We have been witness to the displacement of children and their families from their homes, the disruption of education, the destruction of institutions, infrastructure, and entire regions, and the enormous toll this has had for the Ukrainian people. We have also seen extraordinary resilience and creativity a Ukrainian people who continue to fight, to pursue education, to care for one another, who support their country and its freedom in any way they can. We're honored to have First Lady Zelenska here with us during this special visit to Washington, D.C. to share her perspective and reflections on this moment in her country. She has provided invaluable leadership in her role as First Lady and has become an important voice for peace in our international community. We're grateful for the focus she has placed on families, children, and education. We're honored by her gift of a set of books to Georgetown as part of the Ukrainian Bookshelf Project, which seeks to share Ukrainian literature with libraries around the world. Her efforts, a new national mental health program entitled How Are You? New trainings for first responders and counselors. Her engagement with the World Health Organization on a roadmap for mental health and psychological support during war, provided an example of leadership and service in a time of great turmoil. Her foundation, which focuses on healthcare, education, and humanitarian aid, has supported the resettlement of 4,000 people, providing household essentials to help them rebuild their lives. It has started a campaign for funds to help rebuild hospitals and medical facilities, including the Izium Central City Hospital, which once served nearly 150,000 people. It is working to provide nearly 39,000 teachers with technology and software to support education. And it has funded a project for Ukrainian children focused on addressing grief. We are deeply honored to have First Lady Zelenska here with us this afternoon, and we look forward to the reflections she will share with us. Please join me in welcoming to the podium the First Lady of Ukraine.
Hello, everyone. I will talk to you in Ukrainian, so I hope you have your translation. Can turn it on. Доброго дня всім.
Good afternoon, everyone. President Joya, Ambassador Revere, thank you very much for this invitation. Dear friends, students, teaching staff of Georgetown University, it's a huge honor for me to be here, and it's very nice as well, I'll be honest with you, because your university can, if we can use these categories, it's a friend of Ukraine. I know about a number of events that you've held here about Ukraine, dedicated to Ukraine, to tell the world about Ukraine, to tell everyone about what's happening to us, and we are very grateful for this. Thank you. Our embassy is located right here in this wonderful place, Georgetown, and I know that you work a lot with them. Thank you for this as well. I am sure that this is a sort of classical university spirit when people want to get to the bottom of things, to understand, to research, and that's very important in the time of hardship that we are experiencing. And I think that it is exactly the people who can feel, who can sincerely feel, deeply feel the injustices of the world, who take them as a challenge for themselves. They have a future, and countries like this have a future, countries who raise these kinds of people. So happy start of the new academic year, and I hope it will be interesting for you. And the academic year also started for our students in Ukraine very recently. Unfortunately, on the very first day the academic year was interrupted by dozens of air raid alerts across the country. You may have seen the photos of our first graders who went to school for the very first time, or spent their first day of school in bomb shelters. Over the last 2 years, the Russian shelling in Ukraine damaged 81 universities. And that's just buildings, they can be rebuilt. What's worse is that people are dying. We can recall the recent case in Chernihiv when a Russian missile struck the center of town and killed 2 teaching staff and a student from the Chernihiv Polytechnic. And it was only 10 days before the 1st of September, the start of the new academic year. And each university in Ukraine, now we have students who have been killed who went to the front line to defend Ukraine. And they're remembered by their universities. But unfortunately, we cannot bring them back to life. And I'm looking at you, and I can see our students. I don't think that you are that different. And you have one particular trait in common, that's caring and empathy and wanting to change things for the better. And this is why it feels so nice that we are now opening the 40th Ukrainian bookshelf. It's a nice round number. And it's a project that we start in various libraries of the world, and we hand over various types of books, fiction, historical literature, etc. And we want people to know Ukraine from first to have first-hand knowledge of Ukraine, what we're like, what we think, where our roots are. And this is, I think, what is the foundation for understanding of other countries and other people. In fact, books are another very important thing in the confrontation with the enemy. Our people are fighting for their survival, and so are our books. Dozens of libraries have been burnt down by Russian missiles. And when we hand over books, our living books, somewhere abroad, we are basically saving them physically. We're giving them a chance at life. And people support books, and books sustain us as well. And you can always see people reading in bomb shelters during air raid alerts, because books are some kind of a mental shelter for people, a mental escape. You can see books in the hands of our IDPs, because this is something that reminds them of home, or refugees that reminds them of home. You can see our soldiers reading in the trenches, because this is, at least for a few moments, it's normal life again. And I think many people in Ukraine, especially, have seen a photo of one of our soldiers who, in the French, was reading a book by Timothy Snyder. And the author later said that he was very happy to find out about it. He came to Ukraine, he comes to Ukraine often. And I think that really is testament to how Ukrainians treat books. And for me, it's a great honor that you will have some of our books as well. When we are asked what Ukraine is fighting for, what it is defending, it is exactly this. To make sure that the books would not be burning like they were in the famous book by Ray Bradbury, so that the people wouldn't have to read in bomb shelters. That students, just like you, would be able to study peacefully in their own country instead of dying from bombs in the streets of their own cities. And these books teach us about what literature teaches us, that evil, aggression have to be punished. This should not be precedent in the world. This is what Ukraine is fighting for, and I believe that with the help of people who care around the world, this will come to pass. Thank you.
Last year, our Institute for Women, Peace, and Security honored Mrs. Zelenska, with the Hillary Clinton Award for her exceptional leadership. Her tireless efforts to rally the world to support Ukraine in its struggle for human rights, freedom, and democracy against the brutal assault. And for speaking out for those who cannot speak for themselves, for giving voice to their pain, suffering, and loss, and for leading massive efforts for humanitarian assistance. Secretary Clinton and President DeGioia could not present the actual award to her last year because we were honoring her virtually. She was in Kiev. And so today, we are proud to present Olena Zelenska with the Hillary Clinton Award for advancing women in peace and security. Mrs. Zelenska has agreed to take some questions, so I will begin with a few and then we'll turn to our students. You just described, Pani Zelenska, the difficulties that the Ukrainian people are enduring, the death and destruction, the missiles that fly, not knowing where they will hit. How are they holding up? We are in awe of their resilience and unity. But how are they holding up?
On the one hand, it's a difficult question. On the other, it's a very simple question. And I will start with a simple answer. It's a matter of survival. We want to live. And that's why you're going to fight and you're going to hold on as long as possible in order to get a chance at life. What helps us to hold on is we're actually studying this. We're studying our resilience. And there's a number of things that helps us to keep it together. Gratefulness, because we can feel we feel grateful to the whole world for not leaving us to our own devices. We get support, we get help. Thankfulness, doctors tell us, is something that makes us more resilient. That's also mutual support. We need to act. And the majority of Ukrainians currently volunteer in one way or another. There is nobody who is not helping somebody else. Somebody not helping the front door, helping the refugees, donating something from their income to the armed forces. People are doing this because it helps them psychologically as well. And also, I think contact with each other helps. Communicating helps, because psychologists tell us we are social animals and we need to stay together. We need to keep together. And Viktor Frankl is a famous therapist, psychologist who survived in a Nazi death camp. He said, in order to survive, you have to remember that your current hardship and suffering is lesser than you really are. That your life will go on after the suffering. And you need to remember this, and this is how you survive. And I think that we are sort of carrying that inside. And also what sustains us is that we stay together. A lot of people who I know that have left Ukraine, who are trying to save themselves and their children, I know they're suffering because they are not able to come back, because the situation does not allow at the moment. And being inside the country, we can probably say it's easier for us because psychologically we are together. We're not torn away from one another. So to stay together and to foster this resilience and to believe in victory. And this belief does not fade. This is what we need. This faith keeps us afloat.
You've often spoken about the role that women in Ukraine are playing now through the war. Many are fighters in the security sector. Mothers have been left without fathers, having to mind their children now and support them. Others are engaged in humanitarian assistance, documenting war crimes, engaged in the media, in so many different pursuits. And then we're all familiar with the diplomatic advocates who've been coming to the United States to tell us what Ukraine needs. You've said that it will be difficult when this terrible war ends for women to go back to their more traditional roles because the roles are now changing in society. Tell us about Ukrainian women's leadership, because we often don't hear about that.
That's the question that, actually, that's a thing I talk about a lot, because you see the Ukrainian woman everywhere. It's a testament to equality, it's a demonstration of equality that's become more apparent during the war. Ukrainian women, seeing as a lot of families have been separated, they're not just do their job and do something in the family, they do more, they take on more. So it would be very difficult to say that Ukrainian women are in equal conditions with the men because they're doing more. Recently in New York, I took part in a conference about equal wages for men and women. And we discussed there that sometimes it looks like equality, but it's only equality in the sense of equal responsibility. We are all responsible, it's equal. But in some ways, women are losing out. For example, in the area of equal wages. And I believe that Ukrainian society and the Ukrainian government are now fully responsible for what is happening. And we are taking on responsibility for what is happening. And we continue to work to build a society of equal opportunities even during war. It's a lot more difficult financially, procedurally, but we are going to do it anyway. Since 2018, or 19 rather, until 2021, Ukraine reduced the pay gap from 26 to 18%. That's a huge leap forward, and we don't want to stop there. We wanted to do this, and we wanted to continue with this. We need this equality for women to come back. We need to create opportunities, job opportunities for them. We need to create opportunities for looking after their children comfortably so that they can go to work and look after their children at the same time. And thankfully, it's happening in Ukraine. The Ukrainian government adopted a strategy on equal pay for the period up to 2030. And I am confident it will be implemented. And in this sense, women are very sensitive. Before the large-scale invasion, our women mostly were involved in small businesses. And actually, small businesses are hit hard first. Small businesses like beauty salons and small shops suffer, they're destroyed, and to rebuild them, that's a huge job, and we need to support women here. This is the job of the government. I'm sure that the state will cope with this job.
Let me just ask you, before we turn to the students, about your foundation. We've heard a lot about the work you're doing. Can you just very quickly, because I know you're pressed for time, tell us what the priorities are?
We have three areas, priority areas: humanitarian assistance, support for education, and also support for healthcare in Ukraine. Last winter was extremely difficult for Ukraine. You know, the attacks against the energy system, and you know about the blackouts, and particularly hard hit were the residents of areas close to the front line. And they needed things for heating and electricity, generators, etc. And we provided those, and we will keep providing them to keep people warm. Now the foundation has a project that is aimed at supporting school as well, because the situation in Ukrainian schools is such. Only 1/3 of Ukrainian children go to school because they have a bomb shelter. If there is no bomb shelter in a school, children cannot attend it. School just will not open. And so a lot of children do distance learning. This is why we have a project. Currently, we are making comfortable shelters, bomb shelters in school. 8 schools are now part of this project, and we are raising money to expand the program. The Izum hospital that you've just heard about from the president, that's a terrible situation. We need a lot of money to rebuild it, to make sure this community continues to survive. 150,000 people were served by this hospital before the war. Now people are coming back there, and they have no access to health care. So that's one of the projects as well. And also we look after big foster families. That's a strategic thing for Ukraine, because we are now moving away from big institutions for orphans, boarding schools for orphans. We are looking to foster families, family-type homes. These are families that will take on 5 to 10 children to raise, and that's the priority for my foundation. Among them, there's a lot of IDPs. And these are people who have lost their homes close to the front line and had to move to a different region in Ukraine. So you can imagine, even just to transport a large family with 10 children, that's already a big job. And where they come to a new place, the conditions are very often very bad. We are currently building 14 houses for these foster families where they can feel comfortable. And we want to continue with this project as well. We are helping these families with any kind of essentials for their children. We give them a chance for rest and relaxation. This year, 1,500 children and their parents were able to relax in the Carpathian Mountains. They were able to go on holiday, because these parents never have a holiday. They don't have an annual leave. Their life with 10 children does not foresee an opportunity to go somewhere. This is why we created this opportunity for them to have a holiday together where they can breathe out, look at the sun, and take a break from the air raid alerts. We have a lot of projects. I can keep talking about it for hours, but so I will stop there.
See how just tremendously engaged he is and how great the needs are. We're going to turn to our students from Ukraine now for 2 questions, please.
In Georgetown today. My name is Olha. I'm an international student from Ukraine, Kyiv, and I'm also a sophomore in SFS. І моє питання до вас, на вашу думку.
And my question for you. Social and humanitarian sector in Ukraine. How can we, students and specialists in Ukraine, how can we help to look after the most vulnerable sectors in Ukraine? Thank you very much for this initiative in the first place. Thank you for identifying this as a priority at all. And of course, anyone with a conscience, anyone who's aware in the world have an opportunity to help Ukraine. You can spread true information about what is happening. You can tell people about what is happening in Ukraine. You can tell them the truth. Sometimes that's difficult because we can see a mass effort at propaganda from Russia. So you can encourage people to look after their own information hygiene. That's very important. And I would really like for you, students from Ukraine, to be our ambassadors in those communities where you live and amongst the people that you work with or study with. We want you to come back home. We really want you to come back home. And I'm sure that the country will do everything possible for you to come back. Of course, security is first. And this is why we're fighting for our long-awaited victory, so all of our children, all of our adults can come back. And the next thing, more opportunities for young people to develop in Ukraine. Startups, own businesses, interesting organizations to work for. I think this is what we adults need to think about right now. And the leaders of the country need to think about this right now. I'm sure they will. Everyone who's aware in the world understands what is happening in Ukraine. And it's very important not to lose this focus of attention. Because, in fact, if this does not happen, if we were to imagine that Ukraine is defeated, I think that would be a defeat for the whole world. That would mean that if you have force, if you have power, if you have opportunities and resources, you can do anything you want. You can be a tyrant, you can seize other countries, other territories, and then these situations mean that no one is safe in this world. No one can feel safe in a world where might is right. Who's strong is in charge. And this is why we need to keep the focus of attention of the world on this impossibly tragic and terrifying situation that is happening to Ukraine right now. And I understand there may be some fatigue. Of course, it's not very nice to hear bad news all the time. But to turn a blind eye would mean to turn you back to your own future. So it's amoral, and that's important to say.
Schedule meeting her husband. They'll be going to the White House, and then he'll be making a major address. So we're grateful, so grateful that you could come to Georgetown and spend some time with us. I ask that you not leave your seats until the Ukrainian delegation leaves, and please leave your headsets on the chairs. Thank you to everyone who had anything to do with this program. And thank you especially to the First Lady. І слава Україні!